Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. I am so incredibly thrilled you're joining us today because we are diving into an absolute masterpiece of modern literature. Today we're exploring Khaled Hosseini's deeply emotional 2007 novel, A Thousand Splendid Suns. It is this beautifully crafted, cinematic story that pulls back the curtain on the hidden inner lives, the staggering resilience, and the undeniable strength of Afghan women across three super tumultuous decades. Honestly, the way Hosseini weaves these lives together is just brilliant, and it takes us on this profound journey of survival.
So I want you to ask yourself, how does hope actually survive when the world around you is literally collapsing? Keep that question right in the back of your mind, because it's really the beating heart of our explainer today. We're going to see exactly how, in the face of just unimaginable hardship and massive historical upheaval, profound human connection and selfless love become the ultimate tools for survival.
Section 1. Two Worlds, One Country, The Origins of Mariam and Laila. Let's kick things off by tracing the chronological arc of our story, starting with the starkly different upbringings of our two main characters.
Our story officially begins in 1964 with a 5-year-old girl named Mariam. And right from the start, her life is defined by one heavy, shameful label, harami, meaning an illegitimate child. See, Mariam is the daughter of a wealthy businessman named Jalil and his former housekeeper, Nana. And because of this label, Mariam is totally rejected by her father's legitimate family. She's forced to live this incredibly isolated existence in a tiny rural shack, a kalba, just outside the city of Herat, with her deeply bitter mother.
And that brings us to this absolutely gut-wrenching lesson Mariam's mother, Nana, teaches her. She says, like a compass needle that points north, a man's accusing finger always finds a woman. Always. It perfectly captures the deeply internalized patriarchal oppression of their society. Nana basically instills this cynical, pessimistic outlook in Mariam, teaching her from a very young age that she's fundamentally flawed and that her only real role in life is to just accept and endure whatever cruelty the world throws at her.
Now, what's really striking is the sheer contrast between our two protagonists. After her mother tragically takes her own life, a 15-year-old Mariam is forced by her father to move to Kabul and marry a 45-year-old shoemaker named Rashid. I mean, it is a devastating, total loss of autonomy. But then, look at Laila. She's raised a whole generation later in that exact same city. She's educated, she's hopeful, spoiled by an intellectual father, and she's deeply in love with her childhood best friend, Tariq. They're quite literally living in two totally different worlds within the very same country.
Section 2. Bound by Tragedy, the Equalizing Force of War. Now we're going to see how the political turmoil in Afghanistan acts like this immense atmospheric pressure that violently crushes these two different worlds together.
We aren't going to do a deep dive history lesson here, but understanding this historical backdrop is absolutely crucial because it directly triggers the tragedies in these women's lives. First, Laila's family fractures when her brothers die fighting the Soviets. Then, during the brutal civil war in 1992, Kabul is just bombarded by rocket attacks. And right as Laila's family is packing up to flee the violence, a rocket hits their home, killing her parents instantly. At just 14 years old, Laila's hopeful, bright world is completely shattered.
So, here's where everything shifts. Laila is pulled from the rubble and taken in by Mariam and her husband Rashid. As she's lying there recovering, a stranger shows up with some absolutely devastating news. Her beloved Tariq was killed in a bomb blast while trying to flee to Pakistan. Grieving, totally alone, and secretly pregnant with Tariq's child, Laila makes a monumental sacrifice. To save her unborn baby from the horrors of a refugee camp, she agrees to become Rashid's second wife, tricking him into believing the child is actually his.
Moving into Section 3. Sisterhood Born of Survival. From rivals to family. This takes us right into the emotional core of the novel, the incredibly powerful evolution of Mariam and Laila's relationship inside the violently oppressive walls of their shared household.
To really get why their bond becomes so unbreakable, we kind of have to understand the prison they're living in. Rashid essentially acts as a one-man domestic Taliban, long before the actual Taliban even take power. When Laila gives birth to a girl, Aziza, instead of a boy, Rashid turns on her, just like he did to Mariam years earlier when she couldn't give him a child. He regularly beats them, forces them into burqas, and subjects them to constant psychological terror. And as the actual Taliban rises to power, enforcing these harsh laws that forbid women from working or traveling, the family just plunges into extreme poverty and near starvation.
And then there's the burqa, which is one of the most potent symbols in this entire story. When Rashid forces Mariam and Laila to wear it, it physically manifests their subjugation. It totally epitomizes their loss of freedom and individuality. It's basically a tool used to reduce them to invisible, voiceless entities, putting a literal physical mesh barrier between them and the outside world.
Remember that lesson Nana drilled into Mariam earlier on? The Hamel, to endure. Well, under Rashid's tyranny and the total collapse of their nation, endurance becomes the shared superpower of these two women in the face of immense male brutality.
At first, Mariam totally resents Laila's presence, but everything pivots one night when Laila bravely steps up and actually defends Mariam from one of Rashid's beatings. Mariam responds in this profoundly quiet, gentle way, by leaving baby clothes at Laila's door. And this sparks an exchange of shared cups of tea and halwa in the dead of night while Rashid is asleep. They finally realize they are in the exact same predicament. From that moment on, they forge an unwavering truce, transforming from bitter rivals into an absolute unbreakable chosen family.
This bond just cements itself even further through the raw, visceral sacrifices of motherhood. Because the medical system has completely collapsed, Laila is forced to endure a cesarean section to deliver Rashid's son, Zalmai, utterly without anesthesia in a stripped-down hospital. It's horrifying. Later, when starvation forces Rashid to put Aziza into an orphanage, Laila continually risks severe beatings from the Taliban for traveling alone just so she can visit her daughter. Both of these women repeatedly risk physical torture just to protect the children.
Section 4, The Ultimate Sacrifice. Claiming agency. This brings us right to the emotional climax of the story. Years go by, and then boom, an absolute shock lands right on their doorstep. Tariq is alive. It turns out Rashid had literally paid a man to lie to Laila about Tariq's death, just so she would stay and marry him.
When Rashid discovers that Tariq visited, he viciously attacks the women, actually attempting to strangle Laila to death. To save the woman who has become her sister and her daughter all rolled into one, Mariam strikes Rashid with a shovel, killing him. And in that exact moment, it occurs to her that this is the very first time she is deciding the course of her own life. Mariam completely subverts a lifetime of passive endurance. It's not just self-defense here. It is her ultimate, triumphant moment of empowerment and true agency.
Knowing full well that the Taliban will never stop hunting them down, Mariam makes a heartbreaking choice. She chooses to stay behind and peacefully confess to the murder, intentionally drawing the Taliban's full attention so that Laila, Tariq, and the kids can safely escape across the border to Pakistan. As she faces public execution, Mariam thinks to herself, this was a legitimate end to a life of illegitimate beginnings. She finds this profound sense of serenity, realizing she is loved and she has been deeply loved in return. Her ultimate sacrifice gives her life total, undeniable meaning.
Section 5, A Splendid Legacy. Hope for the future. Let's see how Mariam's incredible sacrifice allows Laila to rebuild her life and honor her friend's memory.
After the fall of the Taliban regime, Laila and Tariq finally get married. But Laila doesn't just hide away to live a quiet life. Drawn by the fierce memory of Mariam and her own enduring love for her homeland, Laila returns to Kabul. They help renovate the orphanage, bringing education and hope back to the next generation of children. Laila takes her unimaginable trauma and transforms it into a driving force for good, actively choosing to build a hopeful future.
And that brings us full circle to the symbolism of the title itself, A Thousand Splendid Suns. It represents the enduring, hidden strength, resilience, and pure beauty of Afghan women. Mariam might be gone, but her love absolutely lives on. Burning brilliantly like a splendid sun, through Laila's survival, her fierce dedication to her children, and her commitment to rebuilding her country.
We've watched Mariam and Laila navigate decades of war and absolute domestic terror, not by giving up, but by leaning on each other. So I want to leave you with this final thought. If love and friendship can truly outshine the absolute darkest oppression, what profound sacrifices are we capable of making for the people we choose as family? It is a stunning testament to the immense power of selfless love, and it's exactly what makes this story so unforgettable. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.